Well, couldn't reach the unmute button. What is up, everybody? It's Tuesday, so y'all know what that means.
Ladies and gentlemen,
And what a Tuesday
welcome
we
to
have.
Tuesday.
What a Tuesday of freaking news that we have in store today, folks. So it's actually hilarious. This morning, we woke up and I was like, I have no idea what to talk about with DORK Discourse tonight. And Tom, your exact words were, just look up Star Wars news and see what comes up. And you must have manifested it because that morning.
Is there serious news? I'm coming
Holy
in very,
shit, there's serious news. Yes.
coming in very cold turkey.
We're getting Tom's live reaction. He literally just walked in the door. He still smells like the outside. He still has his jacket on. That's how you know, because Tom overheats instantaneously within 0.02 seconds. So that's how you know. That's how you know.
Yes, we do, says Sean.
Yes, yes. So in case, I'm sure you've
Okay.
seen the title of today's stream. Here, let's just go. Actually, I got ready. I had a feeling you weren't gonna be so in touch with the news. So here we are. Star Wars Mandalorian movie a go with Jon Favreau directing. So we're getting a new Mando movie.
Okay. It says Lucasfilm announced. Lucasfilm announced?
Yes, it is.
It's a
This is legit.
It's a it came
This is legitimate. Yes.
direct from
And
Lucasfilm?
this is the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, all the major media sources have
Okay. But
been talking about this.
if I go to Star Wars Twitter right now or StarWars.com, it's gonna say it there.
I haven't actually.
Because Hollywood Reporter and Variety have, maybe not Variety, but Hollywood Reporter certainly reported stuff in the past that ended up not coming to fruition.
Let me go back. Mandalorian and Grogu, Journeys to the Big Screen. Yes, StarWars.com. Here you go. Here you go. You want to get the most legit.
Yes.
The most
I do.
legit.
I do want
From
the
the source itself, Star Wars. Here we go. The Mandalorian and Grogu Journeys to the Big Screen. So literally published this morning, like probably fresh after you literally left for work with those parting words. Just look up Star Wars news and see what comes up. And I was like, it's not going to be much. But then, holy smokes. So it's been a heavy news day. So The Mandalorian and Grogu are embarking on a new adventure. 2 movie theaters. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni. The Mandalorian and Grogu will go into production this year. So I'm wondering if this is where the rumors were sparking that Mando season 4, holy shnikes, was going to actually be a film. And now there's no obviously confirmation that this is replacing a 4th season, but this is certainly, there was some validity there to the rumors that Mando was going to the big screen. So I've loved telling D that series nowadays are culminating in a final film, feature film finale. So I wouldn't be surprised if this news is followed by an announcement that this will be the culminating final installment of The Mandalorian and that there won't be a final season, or maybe there will be a season 4 to accompany. But how could they? This to me sounds like, how would you have your time and resources allocated to a 4th season? Oh yeah, that was the other piece of news.
Yeah, that's casually thrown at the end.
That was the other announcement.
That
Ahsoka season 2 confirmed, which I have pulled up over here from Variety, if I can get over there. Ahsoka season 2 in development with creator Dave Filoni. Lucasfilm confirms.
Cares about our privacy rights.
Yes, this actually coming at a really good time because it was, I feel like we had kind of passed a natural window following Ahsoka season 1 finale, where people were kind of like jonesing, like, all right, what's going on? Any word? How can you drop that final episode, which seemingly plants so many seeds for a 2nd season, and then not follow up with a pretty rapid announcement of a season 2? Because that's one thing I will give Lucasfilm in this era of Disney Star Wars and the Disney Plus shows, is I feel like they have been pretty good at, when there is certainty of a next season, they've been pretty good at announcing it, I feel like, in a timely fashion, versus I think with Ahsoka, we were kind of starting to squeeze out of a reasonable period of when we were all kind of expecting this announcement. So I think this is coming at a perfect time, because I think we were all beginning to worry, is this going to happen? Y'all cannot just leave. And I saw rumors Rosario Dawson was denying. People had been asking her, like, has there been any talks about a second season? And she said no, but granted, actors are forced to say no in many situations like that. So, but yes, in development with creator Dave Filoni. This news came with the reveal of a new Star Wars film, The Mandalorian and Grogu, directed by Jon Favreau, which was unveiled Tuesday morning. The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing feature development slate, right, including films helmed by Sharmeen, James, Dave Filoni, blah, blah, blah. Yes, drama, we of course know with the Rey film going on.
So that's the name of the movie?
The Mandalorian and Grogu.
That's the name of the movie?
I guess so. Must be the working title.
It seems like it is, because it says new Star Wars film, in quotes, The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah. No, I guess I'm assuming that it is. So let's tune back in here with the chat so that we can see y'all. Here we go. All right. So yes. So I had a suspicion that Tom had absolutely no exposure to this news at all. So y'all are getting Tom's fresh. What?
Don't just keep talking. Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Nothing's wrong with the lights.
Yes, it is, because people are trying to change the color and it's not working. So
interesting. All right, we're gonna reboot the lights, y'all, so that you can the color will change. But yes, I had a suspicion that Tom had absolutely no idea, and I was gonna call you maybe during the day to give you a heads up, but I was like, nah, it'll be better if we can get Tom's immediate reaction. But of course, being officially confirmed by Star Wars, these are all good things, and the pipeline is actually really growing here of the feature film slate for upcoming, Star Wars and whatnot. So, we kind of were in an era where every other freaking week it felt like there was rumored so-and-so director rumored to be directing a Star Wars project, and then 7 days later we would get another director is jonesing to direct a Star Wars project. So now, there's actually good confirmation about all of these. You might have to double click it, whatever you're trying to do.
Just keep talking.
Okay, well, it's hard to keep talking.
Don't worry about what I'm trying to do.
Let me do it. Oh, frick. Here we go. Sorry, rebooting the lights, folks. This is new, right? It is. This is all fresh. This is fresh off the press today. So I was like, holy smokes, we lucked out. We totally lucked out with some good piping hot news and announcements that are official, that are not rumors, that we can actually talk about and discuss with certainty that they are happening. But yeah, what do you guys think? I feel like there's no way. I feel like it's a little bit subtext implied with this type of announcement, unless they're just like, as I was saying, we're entering an era where it's actually becoming more popular, that series are culminating in a final feature film. It's been rumored with Peaky Blinders that it was all going to culminate in a movie. The series The Last Kingdom just did this on Netflix. It had a few seasons and then finished up with a film installment. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with our lights today. Apologies, members. It for some reason does not want to switch color, but Tom's working on it. So Bird Church says, I think they'll do a season 4 to set up the film. His fingers are worked out from building his spaceship. I need to catch up on the chat. I don't know what that is in reference to. That's true. Let's not forget that it is the 25th anniversary this year. Phantom Menace, for real. And what is it going to be? Is this 20th? It's some major anniversary for... Oh, next year. That's next year is Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they will do a 4th season to build up to it. But I don't know. In terms of, you might have to double click resources and allocating, funding and whatnot, budgets. I wouldn't be shocked if they put everything into a final movie. They said they'll start film production later this year. I doubt that they would also start production to a season 4 as well, right? I think there's no way they can balance out unless it... I feel like the announcement would have been Mando season 4 will conclude the series to be followed by a final film, you know? Like, especially because they announced that production is starting this year. There's no way that they're going to squeeze in a 4th season. There's no way. So I think I'd prefer, I think, if this final installment were just a film. Because there's no way resource-wise. And also, I don't know, it seems a little not lackluster per se, but, you know, to be able to go and see it on the big screen. But then if they were to continue doing seasons after that then I just have to watch, you know, just on my TV, you know? Like, for me, it feels especially fitting, especially because the way that season 3 concluded, it definitely felt like a very natural. I think a lot of us were debating afterwards, like, do we even need to keep going with the story? Because it feels very finite and like everyone's at peace. But of course if this is coinciding with, you know, the events of Ahsoka and whatnot, it definitely makes sense that there could be a larger conflict brewing that could warrant a film, because the films right now, I think the slate is very much working up to tying in how we go from, you know, the new Republic to the First Order takeover. So I'm down for that, and I appreciate the effort that they're making to try to fit in those timelines and really put the pieces together to illustrate how the downfall that inevitably ensues, because we obviously know when we get to Force Awakens, things are not in a good state, and, you know, the First Order reigns over the galaxy. So 25 years, we are getting old. Let's not think about that. Let's not think about that.
If someone could try the lights now, that would be great. I think
give it a whirl.
It should be functioning according to
specifically
members.
So members, we should.
Yes, the commands will only work for.
It's a members only perk.
Members,
sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Fett, what's up? Sorry, yeah, we kind of jumped right in, so I didn't say our usual hellos to everybody, but welcome.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
No, the stupid.
At least those work.
Stupid light is switch.
We've got the wicked colors going on right now. Pink and green. At least the main ones work. Those are the main affair in the background there. Oh, our little one is not cooperating. It's okay. The main event is in the backdrop. The X-Files did something like that. They did 5 seasons and a movie and then more TV seasons. So it is possible. Okay, interesting. I mean, I guess I'm not opposed. I wouldn't be opposed if Mando was eternal and they continued to just keep going.
Just keep talking.
It's kind of hard. You're over here like, just keep talking. Just keep talking. Ignore
I'm
me.
Behind you.
Ignore me. Just keep talking.
Just keep talking.
It's a little bit hard. I've been told that there still will be a Mando season after the movie. Yeah, who knows? This is just my interpretation. But in regards to budget allocations and whatnot, I would hope and imagine that they're going to be designating a lot for this film. And so if that means, you know, it might be actually a while, especially if this film's starting later this year development, allegedly. That means, of course, it'll bleed into 2025, and hopefully there will be a 2025, maybe late 2025 release. Oh, that means there's probably going to be buzz about it, though, at Celebration in 2025. Dang, there's actually probably going to be lots of movie buzz, and even perhaps first looks and teases at the next Celebration with this upcoming slate. Interesting.
I don't know. I think for a film, they would not withhold anything from the public.
What do you mean?
Feature film budget is astronomically higher than any of these Disney Plus shows.
Yes.
So they're not going to risk missing out on any type of marketing opportunity.
Capitalizing on that.
To make sure that they don't have a flop at the box office. So I don't think that they would take the risk of showing stuff at Celebration that's exclusive if it's related to a movie.
Even still, though,
I don't think they would do it.
There's no way this is going to be a flop, because I'm pretty sure IMDb and other services released what were the most watched shows, most searched shows of 2024, 2023. Jesus, my brain. I'm finally getting into the mode where I realize that we're in 2024, and now that's all I keep saying. They released the most watched list of 2023, and Mandalorian was like #1. Like, the audience for Mando is by far the biggest, I think, out of all the Disney Plus shows, because you don't necessarily have to ingest all of the other media leading up to it. It's not like you have to be in the know on Clone Wars or Rebels or Resistance or anything like that. So, I think, frankly, I'm almost shocked it took this long to get a Mando and Grogu film, because especially Grogu, the younger generation, like, there's no way it could flop. This is like gold. This is like striking gold at the end of the rainbow. Not like in a bad way. I'm not saying that they're like, oh my god, it's their cash cow, we have to. Like, it's clear Jon Favreau and Filoni and everyone involved in that team obviously really cares about Mando and stuff like that. And I would argue that it's been the most consecutively watched and successful of the Disney Plus shows. Granted, obviously, that's notwithstanding the discussions of quality and whatnot. You know, Mando and Andor are still two very different things, but I think Mando consistently has been highly regarded. So there's no. Your point is correct, though. There's no way. There's a much. I hope, like, when it comes to the films, like, even with, that's me trying to center myself. Because it's funny, because I saw somebody on Twitter today, you know, defending Solo, because somebody was, you know, describing Solo as a box office flop, and a Twitter user came to its defense and said it didn't flop. They just released the trailer for it like a week before the movie came out. Like, nobody even knew, other than Han Solo, what that movie was going to be about.
If a flop defines losing money at the box office,
then technically.
Was it a flop in terms of people didn't like it?
Right.
No.
I think in terms of,
I mean, you and I both enjoyed it. Right? Was it the story, like, a huge monumental impact to the Star Wars saga as we know it? No. Not particularly.
But it was still fun.
But yeah, it was a good movie. It was entertaining.
It wasn't getting panned. There's a difference. There's the type of flop that it's like people are going just to watch it crash and burn, you know, like it's unanimously panned, bad reviews. But then there's obviously, flop as in losing money, per se.
Like, it wasn't a flop because it wasn't good. I think it was a flop just because Star Wars, interest in Star Wars was dive bombing.
But the marketing
and the marketing
did not help.
No, it didn't help it out.
So I'm hoping that they learned from that, and as this Twitter person explained, it doesn't help to release a trailer a month out. Like, if this, like, you know, depending on when this comes out, freaking go all out at Celebration in 2025. It'll be seemingly poised for a perfect timing. So, sorry, we're looking for more reasons to go to Celebration.
Yeah.
I know I've discussed that with you all, that we've loosely been discussing, you know, that we want to go in 2025. No excuses. We've got to send it, especially because that's a big year for Revenge of the Sith. Bird Church, you raised a really good point. The Mando film is a good way to try to unite fans and get goodwill before these other films come out, assuming that it would release before them. You actually make a really good point, because we've been stressing on Dork Discourse that the pressure is higher than ever for them, probably even more so than there was for the sequel trilogy to perform well. I'm going to argue that the stakes are higher than ever for whatever the first feature film box office release is from Star Wars. That's going to be the first time within freaking almost... When did The Rise of Skywalker come out?
2019. December of 2019. It's been 4 years.
Yeah, it'll be practically almost 5, rounding up closer to maybe almost 10 years by the time any of these movies come out.
I think before you continue talking about stakes, I think that the stakes for these are box office performance versus like the sequels. We're going to perform well at the box office regardless, independent of what the story was, what was happening. You know that Force Awakens and after Force Awakens left on a crazy cliffhanger, you knew that Last Jedi were going to perform astronomical numbers wise at the box office. Versus these movies, we've been getting Star Wars content continuously ever since 2015. So there's not a Star Wars content drought. People aren't thirsty to see whatever has the Star Wars label on it at the theaters as they were in 2015 when we got the first Star Wars movie since Revenge of the Sith with a 10-year gap, excluding the Clone Wars animated movie and the Clone Wars TV show. So I think you're right. The stakes are higher in the sense that the marketing has to be good. The stories have to be feature film cinema worthy level. You know, you can't just take like a Mando episode, make it a little longer, give it some more budget, and put it on the big screen. Like, the story has to be to another level in terms of weight and impact and you know, level of quality that justifies it being on the big screen. And they have to market it at such that this is the biggest Mando event that we will have gotten up to this point. And we've had 3 seasons worth of Mando events. Mando season 2.5 and Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of Mando and Grogu content, but for this to justify being on the big screen, like, it has to be marketed as such, and I hope that the story that they've come up with backs it up.
Well,
that, oh yeah,
true.
This totally deserves to be on the big screen versus just an episode of Mando season 4.
You make a good point. They've set the bar high for themselves and perhaps almost dug themselves in a hole, because I would argue that plenty of material that we've seen for Mando already warranted being on big screen. You know, I will say this till the end of time, Mando season 2 finale is probably going to stand the test of time in this fandom and be regarded forever as probably one of the best, most well-received, best performing highlight moments in the entire canon.
What?
The return of Luke Skywalker.
Oh, Mando season 2 finale.
Mando season 2 finale. Yeah, like, that's something that I would have loved to see theatrically, you know, on the big screen. So that, plus, like you said, there's been many other highlight moments specifically in Mando that have been like, I wish I was watching this in theaters, you know? So it's like, yeah, that is the challenge with Mando specifically, proving that how can you conceive of something, a plot that's going to be strong enough to exceed everything that has been on streaming, because there is an expectation with quality. It's like TV show, well,
Yes, there is.
when it comes to the Star Wars universe, yes. Like, for a mega franchise like that, yes. Because I would argue TV shows nowadays more than ever can exceed feature film quality, and some do. It's not to say, you know, television is diminished. It's inferior to TV or film. I don't think there's a hierarchy there, but there's something specifically in a fandom sense. Like, yes, I want to go see Star Wars on the big screen, and I want it to move me more than whatever I can watch at home on Disney Plus, you know? Like, it's just kind of like the expectation. Or, like, you know, we just naturally, for example, when they released that episode 5 of Ahsoka in only like 5 theaters across the North America, we were like,
but even
why?
that, like, if that was in a feature film, the budget and the quality and the visuals would have looked better.
And it didn't look bad.
No, it didn't. I'm not saying it looked bad,
but it
like,
just would have been
the Geonosis scene was basically just a big dust cloud
True.
with the clone troopers running in, versus like if it was, or technically it wasn't Geonosis, so.
But even Siege of Mandalore.
It was not Geonosis.
Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah, like, it was all very foggy and mysterious, and granted, it's a flashback.
There were
so
no
you can
landmarks.
argue that, you know, aesthetically, you want to distinguish that it's some type of flashback and not real life or whatnot. But anyway, those are digging into reasoning. But like Kenobi, for example, like if Kenobi was released in theaters, or was like, if you took the show that it was with the same budget and put it in theaters, like, quality wise, like, if you gave Kenobi a feature film budget, I mean, a lot of it would have probably looked better. They would have had more time and more budget to allocate to building, you know, more fantastical looking worlds rather than a lot of dark and dirt and gray. So like still could have been the same story and you put it in the theaters and you know, consolidate pieces of it, sure, and it would have been great. But like with that bigger budget, bigger audience, the bigger return on investment that they have of Disney Plus subscriptions versus direct box office tickets purchased for a single project, you know, they have more flexibility and can take more risk. And okay, let's really put some time and effort and budget into making it the world's look over the top, crazy, impressive.
Yeah.
Versus just putting all the budget towards, you know, the story and writing, and then making it look as good as they can with the remainder of the budget.
That's a good point.
And before this chat gets buried, Alice, you make a fantastic point. And it is very interesting that this is the timing when they decide to release this bit of news. Because as I'm sure all of you know, Star Wars has been very much in the hot seat the last week or so, dealing with the comments that the Rey movie director made.
Those comments that were taken, though, very out of context.
It's still a whole... It's been a nightmare PR disaster.
Regardless.
For the last week for Star Wars.
It's
so
been
now
nightmarish, but
they decide to, forget about all that stuff. Here's the Mando and Grogu film that's leaded by Jon Favreau. And oh, by the way, Ahsoka Season 2 is going to be released. It's just very... I think that, Alice, you bring that up, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they have decided to make these announcements now. And if the only announcement was that news article, it makes total sense. Because usually in the past, like for any type of movie thing, they've given a poster, or they've given some type of visual or something else other than just, surprise, here's this movie.
Well, they didn't do any of that at Celebration with all the 3 films slated to come out.
Yeah, but they did it at Celebration.
That's
they brought
true.
the directors
That's
out.
true.
They brought the cast out. It was definitely a well-planned in advance type of event.
Yeah.
Versus this, it's kind of like, it seems like they were holding in their back pocket. It's like, okay, let's just keep this here. Wait until it's an optimal time to release it. And oh wow, okay, we're in a total firestorm at the moment, so bam.
But it was a fan generated firestorm. That's why this morning when you said
everything's fan generated, any type of publicity is generated from the fan base.
Well, it's one thing if people involved in the production of this movie actually did something worth warranting. It was you know, as Alice said, things being twisted.
Think it is worth warranting and pointing out.
That's a whole different argument. But the point is,
but it's still an argument that has been dominating the community over the last week.
Yes,
so you can't just
Star Wars has been
it.
trending quite a lot on Twitter, and not necessarily maybe for good reasons, but because people are coming for each other's throats and battling it out, and fighting over politics and whatnot. So yeah, it's not great news. It's not been good spotlight necessarily for Disney Star Wars as of late.
Yep. Does it take away from this announcement? No, not at all. It doesn't.
What, all the drama?
Yeah, no. I think that the announcement in itself is ultimately a great announcement, right? Whether they decided to just talk about it now and release something now to distract from their negative publicity they've been in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe they did, but regardless, if you look at the announcement, movie with Mando and Grogu and Ahsoka Season 2, confirmed. I think we're all probably in agreement that that's a great announcement.
No, it is. And it's not to belittle it by saying that it was solely just for damage control.
Yeah.
But no, it's just worth noting. Timing is certainly... Sorry, I dropped our... I almost just said remote. The mouse.
Even use that.
We use a
frictionless.
mouse.
There is no friction on this.
This is your mouse. You didn't have a mouse pad.
It's not the mouse. It's this.
There's friction?
You could.
All I'm saying is you can't complain
when this is your mouse. If you expanded this and tried to drive on it, you wouldn't go anywhere. There's no coefficient of friction against this.
You can't complain.
This is what you use for mouse.
This is your mouse.
This is so
and there was no
smooth.
mouse pad, so you can Correct it. Remedy it.
Use even if you just use your
It works
pants,
perfectly fine.
it would have more
Oh,
friction,
that's
so
annoying.
it wouldn't fall.
It works perfectly fine. Anyway, yes.
Physics. For
Point
those
is,
of you who are familiar with physics, every object
Oh
in
my
this
God.
universe has a coefficient of friction, meaning that if you rub at that object against something else, depending on how high that coefficient is, there's going to be more resistance to the movement. So in this case, Catherine is trying to use a very smooth, frictionless book as a surface for her mouse pad. And so if she even pulls her hand off it a little bit, it's going to go flying off of the mouse pad. Case in point, that's exactly what she's happening.
well,
Versus if she uses something with a higher coefficient of friction, it's going to be very much less resistant to the movement if she were to release her hand off of the mouse,
All
and
right.
it would not fall off.
nobody came here for a science lesson. Nobody came here for a science lesson. My brain just turned off.
Okay.
T-Money, what's up? Good to see you. But yes, low-key, when you said look up Star Wars news this morning, and that we'll talk about that, I was
Yep.
like, please, Lord, no, because
Yeah.
it has not been good as of
Sure,
late.
well, not even that's not even why I said that, because I don't want.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
about
it's
that
the
stuff,
truth.
but,
It
yeah.
has not been good. And again, that's no doing of anyone in Star Wars. It's the doing of fans. And it's actually been quite brutal. I don't think there's ever been so much battling on the internet in the fandom for a long time.
Sal, Aaron Rodgers situation.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
because of ESPN being a subsidiary of Disney.
yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers is what got Lucasfilm to pull this out of their back pocket,
Thanks,
that is
Aaron.
hilarious. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron Rodgers is the one who is giving us new Star Wars announcements.
Who
Shout out
would've
to Aaron.
thunk?
That's incredible.
Who would have thunk? Joey Shakes, welcome. And you raise a really good point. That could actually be interesting. Is Boba going to return? Could actually be a really good opportunity to culminate and even introduce. They planted some interesting seeds, in Ahsoka when Hera's kind of facing the Council of Senators and Mon Mothma, the new Chancellor, and whatnot. And, she had already disobeyed orders, so she's getting a little bit interrogated, a little bit grilled, but Carson Teva's there and he backs her up and he says, what are we doing about even the ongoing situations with Mandalore and whatnot? So they definitely are opening maybe a door for conflict like that has been going on, seemingly just relevant to Mandalorian, but they definitely are opening the door for it to become a larger part of the scale of the conflict that's about to go down. That's why it's very interesting. What are the timelines going to look like from here on out? Is it going to be post Thrawn's return? That's actually other interesting to think about.
Get into story theories? I'm trying to think of some.
Well, I think timeline dictates a lot, because it's like, how is it going to interact with the newly confirmed second season of Ahsoka, with Boba Fett? It could be a really big opportunity to redeem Boba after a lot of people, complained that he was a bit overshadowed by Mando in his own show. Like, there's valid criticism for that. So, like, who's all going to coincide? Who are going to be the key players? Who's all going to overlap? Since a lot of this is all taking place in the same timeline, and the timeline's about to get real crazy now that Thrawn is coming back. So that I feel like would warrant, because like, what's the conflict on Mandalore? Well, actually I lied. There's the seeds that were planted of.
Well, he said that line to indicate that Ahsoka takes place after that happened. Because he's saying, like, how do you have proof? And then he says, well, what about the conflict on Mandalore? Which would imply that that already happened, and that's used as proof of some remnants of the Empire coming together.
But it can't be that too far
Yeah,
apart. It's not like it's 5 years ago.
No. It's after, but
Still coincides.
within the same
Yes.
the same political state of the galaxy. Yes.
What was I gonna say? I forget. Well, actually, yeah, the conflicts, if it's not gonna take on a larger picture with the scope of the universe, because then it, I think, competes with whatever Dave Filoni's film is going to maybe set up depending on the timeline for that.
Yeah.
But that's being touted as a first order segue type thing, or right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, it is kind of confusing because, yeah, everybody was thinking initially, okay, Filoni's film is going to be the culmination of the Mandoverse.
Yes.
So this film certainly can't be the culmination of the Mandoverse because this is going to happen before Filoni's film. So, okay, you think about what could be a cinematic worthy event that changes the history of Star Wars that would not be the culmination of the Mandoverse. And I think we have to look at what Ahsoka has done and where Ahsoka landed off and think about, okay, what would the contents of Ahsoka Season 2 be? And I think I actually have a pretty good idea. And I think Visitor Zeta is on the same page that I am. And that's, what if this movie explores Thrawn's return to the galaxy and Mando and Luke and the New Republic and everybody gathering forces to fend off Thrawn's first initial invasion and return to the galaxy. And that's what takes place, and that's what this movie would be about. And then it wouldn't be the culmination of the Mandoverse because, yeah, Thrawn could win. Thrawn could decimate the Coruscant, like Visitor Zeta said. Like, you know, that could, you know, that could be, it could be more of a sad ending of whatnot. But then Ahsoka Season 2 explores, you know, what Ahsoka and Sabine, what's going on Peridia?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the planet? Yeah, what's going on in Peridia and the other galaxy. That could be the focus of Ahsoka Season 2. And then the culmination of the Mandoverse would be whenever Thrawn is defeated. It's like this movie could be the initial wave and attack of Thrawn, but then the culmination of the Mandoverse would seemingly be whenever Thrawn is defeated for good. And Ahsoka Season 2 would be either overlapping with this movie or in the future and dealing with mainly focusing on Ahsoka and Sabine and their spiritual force journey, dealing with whatever's going to happen with the Mortis gods and Anakin on Peridia.
If that's the direction it goes.
So,
yeah, whether this precedes Ahsoka Season 2 will definitely dictate a lot. Main one being Ahsoka's involvement if she's still trapped over on Peridia. You know, she's not going to be involved. She's not going to be doing anything. So I'm starting to think, yes, they probably don't want to overshadow what Dave Filoni is going to set up with his film. It's probably going to be higher stakes, darker, ending off as we know with, you know, the galaxy going down a path that the First Order will take over. So I think, I don't know, just the more that we're talking about it, I think this will not play it safe, but just lean in more to whatever is personal conflict or conflict at hand for the Mandoverse, as we've seen, which is Moff Gideon's uprising, his correspondence, and Thrawn. All of them
Season 3
looking for
Shadow
Thrawn.
Council.
So
Thrawn's return. Yeah, okay. Thrawn's return. Rumored return of Thrawn. Where is he?
Yes. Well, now
Where
he's
is
gonna be,
Thrawn?
if he's going to be back for this Mando film, then that certainly, I think, will be a conflict. That, I think it could focus on the already little rumblings of the underground Empire survivors trying to revive it. So, which is still relevant to Mandalorian and the Mando universe. But I think Dave Filoni's film, they'll probably reserve the bigger picture, the larger scale conflict segue into the First Order for that movie. There's still a lot unknown. I'm talking as if that movie is focusing on those events that lead up to the First Order takeover, but
What, the end of the Mandoverse?
yeah,
There's still
Dave
so much
Filoni's
time
movie.
between it. I think, yeah, but there's
Right. So
like whenever Thrawn disappears and the Shadow Council disappears, like I don't think they truly ever disappear because they're like Hux's dad is in the Shadow Council.
Yeah.
And so clearly that eventually transforms into the First Order. So I think it's probably just waves of, okay, yeah, Gideon's thing was defeated on Mandalore. That's gone. If Thrawn comes back, they defeat him. Okay, that's gone. But the underlying foundation of the Shadow Council and the foundation of what's going to be the First Order, that can't ever go away. So that's always going to be increasing until the First Order really comes to their full strength. Which we see in The Force Awakens and Resistance. If anybody watched Resistance, get some of that there too.
I think a lot of us are fake fans in that regard. I still haven't.
Well, you didn't miss much, but that's a thread, the subtle thread there, that through line of that show. But yeah, it will be very interesting to see how, like, they would. I think that Thrawn has to be the main villain of this movie.
The Mando one or
Yes,
Dave Filoni's?
The Mando one. Well, I think Dave Filoni's as well. I think that he needs to be, and is going to be, the main villain. Unless, I think someone mentioned, if this is where Snoke makes some kind of appearance. Like they've been teasing the cloning. If the first release of Snoke makes an appearance and it transfers from Thrawn to this first version of Snoke, they could go that route as well. And that would actually be kind of cool. Because the one thing that's lacking with Thrawn is there's no Force. There's no lightsaber. There's no traditional things that signify, okay, this is a true Star Wars villain. Now, for everybody who's watched Rebels and who knows Thrawn from Ahsoka, like, yeah, Thrawn is certainly a villain who can compete with anyone wielding the Force due to his tactics and physical stature. But he's still not, you're not going to get a traditional lightsaber fight with him. You're not going to get a Force presence from him. So you could see, like, yeah, Thrawn comes to power. He makes a return to the galaxy in this Mando movie. It takes a whole giant team effort to defeat him, fend him off with, Luke, Ezra, Mando, Grogu. We know Ahsoka's out of the picture. But that could be a team effort there. And if they defeat him, fend off Thrawn's resurgency, then it's like, okay, the Shadow Council's like, okay, Thrawn's gone. What's our next move? And then bam, you've got the Force wielder clone that they've been working years for. And then they send that thing to battle to terrorize it. And then the culmination of the Mandoverse is taking, that new Force threat and extinguishing that to the unknown regions. That's a theory. It could be a theory. But Sal nailed it earlier. We can just stop speculating right now, because Sal's totally right that Thrawn's going to invade Coruscant and take over Dexter's Diner. And then it's game over. If the New Republic loses Dexter's Diner, then just chalk it. Chalk the whole thing. Pack it up. New Republic, you had a nice run. But no longer. So
all of this talk does beg, you raise a point that I didn't even consider, Luke's involvement in everything that is about to ensue, whatever the conflict. I'm trying not to get too in over my head for the Mando movie, because I wouldn't be shocked. You made a comment that, like, it
Mando
has to
knows
be...
Luke.
Yes. Let me finish talking. You made a comment about that it has to be altering to the canon, significant enough to warrant a movie. But because Mandalorian and Grogu specifically cater so much to the younger audience, freaking every toddler, every child has a little Grogu something anymore. He's in, like, every household specifically for younger people. I would not bet so much that they are focusing on this to be the film that is like, whoa, gonna be life-changing, altering the canon. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a little adventure or something with the two of them What this is in defense of film that not everything has to be life altering, canon altering, changing, evolutionary, historic
It has to be
event.
more so that than what we've gotten in the Mandalorian TV show, though.
I would
It has to be
agree.
that. And if you look at the Mandalorian TV show,
We've gotten
we've
crazy
gotten
historic
some
things.
pretty, yeah, not like canon altering, but like Luke
But
showing
yeah,
up,
major things.
taking Grogu on and his first apprentice. Like that's a big
That is a
thing.
big thing.
That's a big
Mhm.
event. Sure, it didn't like change Luke's character. I mean, sure, Grogu leaving and
It
deciding to
changed
leave and
Luke's
go to
character
Boba.
for me. The Book of Boba Fett, I'm still not over the fact. I'll never kind of be over that. I still have a bad
What,
taste
that he
in
gave
my mouth.
Grogu an ultimatum?
Yes, when it's like, Luke, you yourself have a sister, a brother-in-law, Han Solo. Like, you have companions and familial associations of your own. Like, who are you to say? We know, unless we eventually learn that Luke, to pursue a pure Jedi path, disowned his family, but we know that not to be true.
We kind of did.
Because
Why do you think he went to Octo?
that's later. That's obviously much later, but we know that he's training Leia. He eventually starts training his nephew, her child. He's not disassociating himself from
Yeah, but then he
his
went to
own
murder
family.
his nephew.
Okay, but that's not the point is
Cold-blooded
he
killer.
himself had family and whatnot, and still was telling Grogu that he couldn't have one companion, one friend. That's just my interpretation of it. I'm regardless. The point I'm getting to is I don't know. I'm not gonna let's not give too many expectations to see, because I think the Mando film will be fun regardless, and they do have, somebody pointed out, they have the challenge now of catering to the movie audience, and not everyone who goes to see Star Wars in the movies freaking even has Disney Plus or has watched any of the Disney Plus shows. So that is interesting. Is this film, are they going to approach it from the standpoint of anyone coming to see this hasn't watched all 3 seasons, or are they going to try to cater it to, you can enjoy the show or not, even if you've never had a Disney Plus account in your life, never seen an episode of Mando, this movie will still be enjoyable to you. So it's like there's more.
They have to do both. They
But
have to
yeah.
reward the Mandalorian fandom, which is huge, with some type of continuation of the story that they've already set forth. They can't just start and put on some like totally isolated mission that
No.
starts and ends within this one movie and then is not touched
I hope
for
not.
it hasn't like not foreshadowed in any way in any of the first 3 seasons or Boba Fett.
Like if this
And
is
they
just
would
a
end it
side
so that it's not any type
little,
of continuation and anything in the future.
if
Yeah,
it's just a
exactly.
side little
Yeah.
adventure that has no consequence at all
Correct.
to the actual order of events in the show,
Yeah, like
I would not be surprised though. And I don't
That's-
think that's
that's-
inherently a bad thing. I wouldn't be
it's an
shocked.
awful thing.
Yeah, to us
Because
show
it's like
you.
if the only thing if we've gone through 3 seasons of Mandalorian and multiple episodes outside of Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett with these characters, if they just give us a totally non if it's some adventure that has nothing to do with anything that's in the show, I mean, that's kind of a slap in the face to everybody, the huge fandom and support of the show. Like, yeah, sure, it's the same characters, but like if you take the same characters and like do something new with them that's totally independent of everything that we've experienced with them up to this point, I don't think it's a good idea. And even if you did that, like you then would, okay, the other side is, okay, how do you what's the story, what's the perfect story for a casual for a Star Wars fan that has never seen Mandalorian before and, like you said, only sees things in the movies? Well, if they've only seen the Star Wars in the movies, they would have the 9 saga films, Solo and Rogue One. Those are the only things that they've seen. Then to get them interested, you have to have a story that
That's
Mando is
true.
directly involved with the lead characters and the impact that those other movies have had. So that means, based on this time frame,
Luke Skywalker.
Luke.
Mm.
Luke would have to be critically involved into that story to get the average casual Star Wars fan even interested in what's going on with this movie. I think.
That's a good point.
I think because if that's your target audience, someone who wasn't interested in Mando enough to even think about downloading Disney Plus and watching the show, why would putting that face of Mando and Grogu on a movie poster, why would they want to buy a movie ticket to go
Why
see
are
that?
they catering to those people?
Yeah.
Especially since Mandalorian and all those characters, it's not like they were part of the film canon before.
Yeah.
You know, they're Disney Plus characters. So I'd say there's no harm in if they do cater to it. Like, it would be different if you had a show about, or a film about Anakin and Obi-Wan, but oh, you can only fully get the most out of it if you watch this sideshow on Disney Plus and this and this and this. They would never do that. They couldn't get away as easily with that as much as they can with Mando and Grogu are not pre-existing characters to the film audience, the film canon, so you could get away more easily with it. Following,
That's what makes Star Wars so great, though, is it piques your curiosity about what happened before. I mean, you look at A New Hope. Why do you think A New Hope is literally, arguably, the most impactful, biggest movie that's ever released in the history of humanity? Because you start off in the middle of this just mind-blowing visual conflict with this asthmatic robot mechanical guy and this princess with cinnamon buns on her head, and then you go meet this old hermit who tells you about, oh, like, yeah, your dad has the Force and he's dead though, but he fought in this giant war with me and we were best friends, but yeah, he's definitely dead. And then, oh, right after that, you see this kid's adopted parents get turned into burnt toast, and then he goes off on this adventure to continue Obi-Wan's and his father's legacy that you just are now magically totally interested in after a few seconds of dialogue. So when like the first 20-30 minutes of that movie, you're like totally introduced to this new world, all this, teases of backstory, but like the plot you're in is right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And just like the world building, it's all about the world building. So like if you take beloved, like known characters, put them in a new situation, but that situation still it teases the world around it, both the past, the future, and at that same time period, different areas of the galaxy. Like it has to touch all those things to really make it a true continuous Star Wars movie that matches the level of world building that all of the other movies that have been released in theaters have done. I mean, even arguably, at least for me, like if you were to take like my Star Wars ranking, like my favorite ones do a lot of like heavy world building, which I mean, I think that's one reason why I love the prequels so much, is that they take the original trilogy and just multiply it by 1 billion in terms of building the world, building the politics, building the size of the galaxy, building the ships, building different people, building on the alien races, building on the Jedi Order, building on the Force. Like it just world builds tenfold what was done in the original trilogy. But anyway, so I think if they take Mando and Grogu, they obviously aren't going to redo a story. It would be an original story that warrants it being in the movie theater, but like it has to acknowledge in some way all of the time we've already spent with Mando and Grogu, and it can be pretty subtle, like if the A New Hope example with Obi-Wan telling Luke about the Clone Wars and his dad and Jedi and the Force, like I mean, it's like 2 or 3 minutes of dialogue, them having a casual conversation, but that conversation literally spawned into 3 prequel movies, all about that 3-minute conversation.
Yeah.
So like, there's like that would have to be integrated some way into this movie, and then same for setting up the future, and same for building the world that we already know in the Mandoverse during that same time period.
So your argument is that it wouldn't hurt them to create a Mando movie that specifically would warrant new moviegoers who've never seen the Disney Plus show. There's no harm in making a film that doesn't necessarily cater to them, but instead prompts them to be like, oh, now I want to go sign up for Disney Plus and actually watch the show, which actually, thinking about it from a money standpoint, that benefits them more to inspire peak interest for moviegoers who've never watched the series to then want to go download Disney Plus and watch all 3 seasons. So, my biggest question is, this begs, a question that has been a topic of discussion in the fandom for a long time. If Luke Skywalker is going to be a big pivotal part of this story, should he be recast?
Luke?
Yes.
No.
Really?
Nope. Should.
Why not?
Because it's too... When you're talking about a character that is recognizable and has been recognizable for over 40 years...
Decades.
Any type of major difference in likeness will instantly pull anybody watching it out of it. Versus still with it's never going to be perfect, even with the deep fake and everything that they've done with Luke in Mando season 2 and Book of Boba Fett. Like it still is noticeable.
Yeah.
But if it's someone else's actual face, like, at least to me, I think that's more, it pulls you out more. And like, if I'm Mark Hamill, I would be like more upset about that than
being recast.
Being more upset about being recast than going through and trying to just use Mark's face, but digitally, a digital version. Because if you recast, you're saying like, okay, Mark, your turn with Luke is up. Now it's time for this new person to be Luke for the next 40 years because we're just going to continue to use that person.
That's true.
If I was Mark Hamill, which I'm totally not, clearly, that would be my take. Because to me, that says, okay, yeah, sure, it could be cheaper and be easier to recast. So what? You're not willing to spend the extra dollars to put a quality deepfake out there when deepfake technology is very easily accessible? Is that what it is? Because then what does that say? Think about how much money I have generated you as a company with my face and my voice and my likeness. So I think that, as long as Mark Hamill's around, and even when he's not around, no, you're Ewan McGregor.
Stanley's. True, especially with
you're
the
right.
beard.
I'm not Mark Hamill. I am Ewan McGregor. Yes.
You need the spirit of Luke, says Charlie. Birdchurch says it wouldn't feel like Luke if it didn't look exactly like Mark Hamill, in my opinion. But if using someone like Sebastian Stan helps the deep fake, then I'm down for that. But it has to look like the original Luke. Yeah, I come from the perspective of, granted, yes, the way I look at, and even, I was saying this in my, recasting Luke is like recasting another actor to play Rocky. That's true. That is a good point. And even in my reaction to that latest, the fan-made animated Battle of the Heroes in the Clone Wars style of art and animation, I was explaining how I have even different mental and emotional associations with James Arnold Taylor and like Matt Lanter's renditions of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Even just changing the voice has a huge impact for me personally, just mentally. I associate them, not that I see them as different characters, different inherently from the live action Anakin and Obi-Wan, but there's just some sort of mental difference that I associate with them. So yeah, same carries over with Alden Ehrenreich and, Han Solo.
It's different though.
Granted, because it was an entire movie versus...
Not because of that. Because you're going backwards. Going backwards, it's way easier to justify than going forward.
That's a
Now,
good point.
Solo is still in that iffy range of like, yeah, we weren't going to Han when he was 10 or pre-puberty. Like he was still a post-puberty Han.
Yeah.
And so like you still certainly could have, it's in the iffy territory, but even going backwards, it makes it way easier to put aside, at least in my opinion, makes it way easier to put aside the versus going forward. Like if they were to recast Han for The Force Awakens and not used Harrison Ford and use some, if they used
that's bizarre.
If they used but let's say Harrison Ford had died before The Force Awakens came out, and then they use, what is his name? What is his name?
I wish I could help you.
What is his name?
Give me a movie that he's done.
Joker, the TV host who gets shot in the face at the end. Spoiler.
Oh, I don't even.
I keep thinking
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. Yeah, if they cast Robert De Niro as Han Solo in The Force Awakens because Harrison Ford
that would be
passed
so
away,
different. Yes, that would
versus
be
using technology to put Harrison Ford's older face onto someone. But like in Luke's case, technically you have to deepfake because Mark Hamill is older than where he is in the timeline. But
it's still
it's all about the time period of with the canonical time period. So Luke in Return of the Jedi, Mark Hamill, if you were to recast him as an older version, I think that's a way worse scenario than like, yeah, if we're gonna see something with young Luke, like Kenobi, granted he's 10, it's totally different actor. They didn't use any type of deepfake technology or anything.
Obviously.
But even if you see a younger teenage Luke, like Solo, I think it's way easier to just put a new actor in there. There's no real, I don't think, any heavy expectation that, you have to make it look like a digital younger Luke.
For me personally, yeah, it's valid. I also get taken out. Like, I associate Alden Ehrenreich's, his Solo is not exactly the same as Harrison Ford's, because just inherently an actor will bring different mannerisms, a different lens to the character, a different perspective. So there is I have mental different associations, in that regard. So yeah, in a way it takes me out a little bit, but I wasn't sitting there watching the entirety of Solo being like, I can't stand this. He's not Harrison Ford. Versus for me, it's the deepfake technology that takes me out quite a lot. However, for a feature film budget, because granted deepfakes have gotten better. Luke in season 2 finale of Mando versus the Luke that we saw was way more tolerable for me, and that was only in the span of a few years difference. Granted, they probably allocated way more time and resources and money to that, to the Book of Boba Fett appearance, because he was literally in like half of that episode. So that's where I tread the line of, is it better to recast just from the perspective of somebody who seeing a fake face specifically, and again, it was way better for Book of Boba Fett, but for Mando season 2 finale, like, listen, it still looked really freaking amazing. It still looked super, super well done, and you could tell it was Luke. But it's the same with Indiana Jones, the latest one that came out, and the whole first like maybe 25-minute intro of the movie, it was de-aged Harrison Ford, but it's still just not ever gonna be. Although maybe no, who knows? In the future, they probably will. You can already freaking deepfake people's faces, scary amounts now with AI.
Yeah, but you knew that it was Indiana Jones, right? You
but
knew
still not like
Ford.
What if it was
The Rock? What if it was The Rock?
What the heck? That's so irrelevant.
That would have taken you out way more.
That's not even, because they would never cast him to play a young Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, maybe they did.
Anyway.
And then they deepfaked him to be young Harrison Ford.
Anyway.
Joshua brings up a good point of, why is recasting a big deal? Because Superman and Batman and all these other, Spider-Man, all these other famous characters have been recasted over and over and over again. And I think the answer to that is because the recasting essentially is just a retelling of the same story, just in a different era with a different budget, with different visuals. It's not like there's one ever expanding Superman story. You know, he's working in the newspaper, he's dealing with Lois Lane, and then he goes and has, you know, fights the bad guys. Batman, he's got Alfred, he's got his parents die, they're murdered. Spider-Man, at his Uncle Ben dies, and then he meets Mary Jane, and then blah blah blah. It's this like the same rough story, just cut and paste, slightly tweaked over and over and over again. So like in that case, yeah, not having the same face is easier to accept. But in this case, there is one Star Wars story that started 40 plus years ago and has carried on to this day.
True.
So if it's one continuous story, it has to have the same continuous likeness to make it as believable as possible.
It's fair. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty accurate.
Yeah, because obviously, as we
between
see
those two
in,
scenarios.
No Way Home, they all, Spider-Man specifically, all the different Spider-Man culminate in, but it's known, it's pointed out that they all come from different universes, different timelines, stuff like that. They all can coexist, but they all, have different, it's the same story, or same person, different stories for each of the respective Spider-Men and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Again, also, if it were a feature film, granted, it's not like Luke would be carrying the film. He wouldn't be the main character. And I imagine feature film budgets, as we did see, to point out, I'm not saying it would look bad by any means. The Harrison Ford deepfake, the de-age rather, that we saw for, again, it was like the first 30 minutes of, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. By no means at all was it unwatchable, unparable. It actually was really, really freaking impressive. And I was excited to go see it after seeing buzz about it, of people reporting online that it was really freaking well done as far as de-aging and deepfakes go. So, as we advance into this era of AI and technology, and again, if there's even a freaking picture or video of you on the internet now, even just apps that you can buy on your phone can deepfake and make it look like you're doing a dance or a video or something that you're not actually doing. Like, which
AI generated imagery.
Horrific. Yes, it is horrific. That has all different problems and caveats that are going to come up in the future, but it exists, and it's something that you can literally have in your own phone, in your apps, and you can tweak a video. So technology is only going to get better with the de-aging and stuff. And I imagine with future film budget allocations, it hopefully won't even be a question of whether they should have recast or not, because it'll just be that good.
Yeah, if you have a continuous story and that actor doesn't look like where that character should be in the timeline, you have easily accessible technology, just use it. Just use it. If the actor agrees to use their likeness, or if they pass and the family agrees to use their likeness.
There's the ethics of it all, yes.
It's ethically approved by all parties that are interested.
But that is one thing that they've done successfully with bringing back Mark Hamill. They still bring him back. Yeah. They have him do it, as well as the body double, to still get Luke's mannerisms, and they still de-age his voice and whatnot. So they do it. Granted, as long, I don't know. I don't know how Mark Hamill feels about it, but he still comes back to keep doing it. And I think he's spoken positively of the experience of coming back to reprise Luke for Mando's season finale. So as a fan, my perspective is that's the best possible way to do it. If the person's still living, have them come back, have them reprise that role. Because at their core, they still are that character, the heart and soul of that character. As Charlie said, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill are one and the same. Mark Hamill will always be the heart and soul. So that's best case scenario. If they, if Luke is featured in this movie, bring Mark Hamill back, do exactly the same process they've been doing. Obviously still casting the younger actors and whatnot for physicality, but...
while we're talking about Mark Hamill, just want to throw it out there now that he will 1000% be returning as Force Ghost Luke in the Rey movie. So I'm just throwing it out there now. that
Oh, he freaking better
we'll
be.
see like actual
Yes.
current age Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker
Yes.
again for sure. So
There is no way
just
they wouldn't.
throwing that out there now. But imagine if they said, "Oh no, Mark isn't right for the role anymore. Let's cast Robert De Niro to play Force Ghost Luke in the Rey movie." That would take you way out than if they had to do some type of digital face manipulation to Luke.
No, my argument is that if Luke is going to be a main character in a movie from here on out and you're focusing on young Luke specifically, I personally just... Granted, technology's getting better by the second, and this is nothing against the people who freaking work probably overtime to try to get this stuff accomplished, and they still probably get underpaid and are working, you know, crazy hours and still don't have enough time to get these things done. You know, that's nothing against them, but it's just a personal... If it's the deep faking for me, I can only tolerate it for so long, which is why I thought Mando's season 2 finale was perfect and super tasteful and well done, because it was just the perfect amount of time. And you're not sitting there looking at it for too long, giving a crap like, that doesn't look like Luke to me, because he was only there for 20 seconds and you didn't give a shit.
The whole thing is, in the moment, if you're not distracted by it, then it was successful.
Yes.
Yeah, you could rewatch it a million times, analyze frame by frame, and nitpick every little thing.
But it was literally only 20 seconds.
In the moment of initial viewership, if you're like, wow, Luke Skywalker, end scene, then they did their job.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They totally did their job.
Sorry, if it's not distracting, then it's perfectly fine.
If he pulls his hood off and it's Andrew Tate,
what the heck?
you're gonna be like,
why the frick
that's
is
not
that
Luke
the first
Skywalker.
person that comes to your mind?
No idea.
What the frick?
I have no idea.
As if that would... In what universe?
I have no idea why that's the first name that came to mind. Probably because you said something about
There's one way to beat
yesterday.
the woke allegations. Higher freaking Jesus
Yeah.
Lord.
You mentioned the other day, that's why it popped.
I did bring him up in conversation. Not in any glorifying manner. I should just have my own back. My God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Good disclaimer.
I need to cleanse my ears.
But like, even if it was Sebastian Stan, let's say, who's a popular...
Yes, he's a big
Luke
candidate.
recast.
Yeah.
Even if it's totally unaltered Sebastian Stan's face and he pulls off the hood, you're like, Luke Skywalker?
No, I would say, oh wow, Sebastian Stan. You know?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Lizzo and Jack Black. You don't know him as Captain Bombardier, and I don't even remember Lizzo's name, but you're like, that's not Captain Bombardier. You're like, Jack Black and Lizzo, like that's a blatant, instant pull everyone out of the episode type of event. So, Charlie, Mark was not a fan of what?
Andrew Tate, probably.
Post Malone, Tate Gunray.
Goodness gracious. Moving on.
Moving
on. I need to cleanse my ears.
In my Bugatti.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but that will of course time will
Snoop Dogg,
tell.
another great example. What if he pulled the hood off and Snoop Dogg was there?
Could you imagine if Snoop Dogg was in Star Wars?
Crazy.
Honestly, hearing you say it, I kind of could believe it a little bit.
No, it would be the same thing as Jack Black and Lizzo. Snoop Dogg.
No, that would certainly take me out. But
Robert De Niro.
You're the one mentioning him. You're the one mentioning all of them.
It doesn't matter if you put a name person that looks like him. That's gonna be the reaction.
No, we've discussed this. The best cameos in Star Wars have been the ones where it's like, oh, fun, Daniel Craig played that stormtrooper, but you don't see Daniel Craig, and you don't think James Bond. Yeah, it's like that's a fun way to incorporate. You know, there's other ways that Star Wars has done it better, or you know, having like George Lucas. I never, if you know his cameo, I see it every time, and I'm like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I'm like, oh, George.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but it's like he looks totally different. Yeah. And before I knew that tidbit, I didn't think that was George Lucas. Yeah, exactly. So that's my favorite way. Yes, that's the best way it's been, where you can't identify and you're not saying
Barack Obama.
Jesus. My gosh.
Not to get political.
Yes. Well, I feel like we deviated so off topic, but I wanted to discuss what would warrant the necessity of having to recast. Granted, this is assuming that Luke Skywalker might play a role. I could totally see. Could be really interesting to set up again if there is going to be a season 4. It could be interesting if again the events of whatever this Mandalorian and Grogu movie end up being, if the timeline proceeds Ahsoka season 2, could be really interesting to show the reveal to like Mando if for some reason he's looking for Ahsoka or Luke or something or whatnot, and he learns like, oh, you didn't know? She got stuck back on that planet in another galaxy. Like, she's never coming back.
Yeah.
It could be interesting to, get his perspective, get his reaction and reveal for that. And how that could maybe set up events for a 4th season. Because that would really be actually the smartest thing for them to do, from a perspective of garnering more interest and having people keep going, keeping the story going. If they have this film that would inspire people to, go watch all 3 seasons again, and then a 4th season, if they have the film and it ends off on some sort of, not cliffhanger per se, but sets up for what could be events of a 4th season, then anyone who's new to Mando, has never watched the show, goes to the movie, they like it, they want to see more, and then there's the promise of, oh, story to be continued in the final season of the show. Not saying it would be the final, but, something along those lines. We just dropped so many viewers. I think everyone's going to watch Echo, or Percy Jackson also came out, I think.
What's Echo?
It's that new Marvel series. The one that has the TV rating, the mature viewer discretion advised, that
okay.
we were talking about.
Yeah. But it is Percy Jackson night. That's right.
It is Percy Jackson
right.
night. Yes,
right.
yes. So maybe depending, I mean, granted, I think an hour is still a perfectly good amount of time, but maybe depending on when the Star Wars shows actually come out, maybe that might be tough for you. You might be booking it to make it,
Yeah,
but
this 5 p.m. Pacific is.
It's still tough sometimes.
Yeah, I'm kind of close for sure.
And this was your idea, so
well, no, but it's better because this is a better time slot than doing it way later.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd want to do it after the shows because that's like too late. I mean, not for sure Alice and fellow further Western folks in Australia, or if anybody's in Asia, would be all for us doing it way later. But then all the European viewership,
well, actually,
it's tough for them. Versus this is like, I mean, it's still pretty late in Europe. It's past midnight in Europe right now.
Yes, it is.
It's
but
we can't do it much earlier.
Something that could be fun to do though when the Star Wars shows start coming out at, if they stick to the 6 o'clock Pacific like they did with Ahsoka, which please Lord, that was so much better, although the Europeans then were complaining because that was a sucky time for them.
They're doing it with Percy Jackson, so it seems like they're...
And Echo just dropped, so if they are sticking to that release time, it could be, the episodes are never more than 45 minutes or so it could be fun to maybe, when the shows are actually airing, we could switch Dork Discourse to be afterwards, so that we can just immediately hop on after and talk about things. That could be actually...
do it before and after?
No, we could switch it to after. Doing a before and after sandwich, that could be a lot.
I think it's better to do before. I think it's better to talk about anticipation for what's next right before it happens than talk about what just happened.
Yeah.
I think.
I should be asleep, says Bird Church. I know for many of you guys it's probably it's like 3 a.m. I don't know what the difference is. But I love Alice. We're so honored. Percy Jackson can wait until Kat has finished. I'm really glad that I hope we played even a small role in inspiring you to watch the show. Because if I remember, I think you hadn't even seen the originals or whatnot. So when we were first talking about the Percy Jackson series, so I'm glad that you're watching it. I'm excited as well. It's actually been really freaking good. And I didn't even read the books, so I think Tom, though, from a book reading perspective, you would agree that it's been good, right? Or I don't know what your how it coincides with the
for-
stories, being faithful to the
Yeah.
books.
What's up, Kyle?
Let's
First live stream in a
go.
while.
Let's go.
Hope you're doing well.
Glad that you can make it. Yeah, we're streaming every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern.
7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain.
Yes, to be real specific. Yeah, Charlie's rejoicing. Yes, I was staying up till 3 a.m. my time. My God, yeah, that's right. For the East Coast, they got the real brunt of it, because I could at least force myself to stay awake when the episodes were dropping at midnight Pacific. That wasn't really too bad, but granted, it's so hilarious because on any random actual day of the week, I do stay up naturally till midnight and sometimes beyond, and it's not a problem for me. But when I had to freaking wait all day for the episodes to drop at midnight, that's when I was getting tired. And I was like, I hate this! So I'm glad they heard all of our complaints over here. Hopefully they're not on like a cycle of catering different release times. Like we're in a good period of time now where the release times are clearly catered to Pacific and East Coast viewers. But what if they switch it up again?
No, they won't. They won't. Also, the mouse just fell off again. For
Oh my
those in the
gosh.
chat. So, if you want to revisit the friction physics conversation from earlier,
Oh my Jesus.
so we can
The
have
3
it
a.m.
reinforce in your
episode
brain.
releases were tough for people on the East Coast. I know. I remember trying to stay up to watch the Clone Wars finale, and then by the grace of God, they dropped it at 1 a.m. instead of 3 a.m., and I was like, I will not question this. Thank goodness, because I would not have made it to 3.
So before we start to get to wrapping it up
You've
here,
not done a poll at all yet either, yeah.
yes, I have a good poll idea, but
Oh.
we need to kind of set it up a little bit.
Okay.
So the bulk of the stream we spent talking about theories for what we think the show, or not the show, this new Mandalorian and Grogu movie would focus on, where it would be in the time frame, in the timeline. And then yeah, there's some recast side conversations with the assumption that Luke would be playing a role in this film. What we kind of touched on was the other side, which would be the villain of the film, and how said villain would impact villain of Ahsoka Season 2 and villain of Mando Season 4, if there's still Mando Season 4, and villain of Filoni's multiverse ending movie. We threw out some possibilities, so I think that should be our poll. I think ultimately we know who the heroes are going to be. Mandalorian and Grogu. They're going to be the main focal point. Depending on what the plot is, I mean, we can see Ezra, Hera, Chancellor Mothma, New Republic, Luke, potentially some Force Ghosts. The good chance that Zeb, Carson Teva, for sure. Carson Teva's a lock. Absolute lock. He's showing up in everything.
He's locked and loaded,
So
yeah.
Carson Teva is for sure in it. I would bet everything that he's in it. But yeah, so I think we can reliably predict who the main heroes are going to be. Bo-Katan, perhaps, probably.
Yeah.
She'll probably show up. I think that's a pretty good guarantee. But the villain side, like, what is the conflict here? Who's involved with the conflict? I think that is the real determining factor in really the overall weight of the story and the success that the movie would have. My opinion is, what's the conflict? Who's the villain?
Carson Teva doesn't sleep.
No.
For real. Man's
Apparently
working
not.
overtime for the New Republic, keeping it afloat. Well, this also raises a good point, and
Yep,
you know,
Grief Karga, Carl Weathers. Yeah.
could address the theories that have been going around regarding, I think a lot of people were very immediately like refusing to accept there's no freaking way that Moff Gideon actually met his demise there. I think a lot of us immediately rejected that, and that we were like, there's no way He's coming back. It was a clone. So there's obviously been some discourse around. And what you said, it could be fitting for him. I don't like the idea of just unceremoniously continuing to bring people back and everyone just is evading death all of a sudden in the Star Wars universe. However, as you mentioned, this could be a good way. They've already dabbled in the conflict of clearly the Imperial remnants are working on cloning, or they were working on cloning. It's been a thing, it's been a theme, and they've touched on it briefly at different times, but it's obviously been leading somewhere, so I think it could be appropriate to have that be the reasoning for why Gideon does come back, which I wouldn't be opposed to, because you guys know I think Giancarlo Esposito so underutilized, criminally underutilized, specifically in this third season here. Granted, his appearances were sweet, in the season, but continuously with Moff Gideon, you have to wait till the last, 2 episodes for him to show up. And Giancarlo is just so much more deserving of more than that, and so that could be interesting. I would accept them reviving Moff Gideon to play into the conflict of cloning and planting the seeds, and are they working on developing a Snoke or whatnot? So I think I would warrant his return in that regard, if he is going to be the main villain, because it's don't introduce anybody else, I wouldn't want them to.
Yeah, Nicholas, you're right. Cat should just be in Star Wars already, so it could be amazing again.
Oh.
Yeah, new villain's going to be Darth Shiva.
Listen,
played by Cat.
Y'all know if I ever, I'm manifesting it when I'm gonna start using confident language, when I am in Star Wars, y'all, whenever that may be, y'all know I want to play a Sith so badly. I want to play a bad guy so bad. That's the dream. So let's manifest it.
That'll be awesome.
Yes, Bird Church raises a good point, and I'm in agreement. I don't want to sound morbid, but death needs to start feeling more like a threat in Star Wars. Often recently people get shot, stabbed, and you're just like, it's fine, we'll see them again. No, that's very, very so valid. And that's why the only reason I would be, okay with them bringing back Giancarlo, other than the fact that I think he's been underused criminally, and I just always want to see more of Moff Gideon, and I thought that he died before we just even barely scratched the surface of his character. I would warrant it in that regard if it, actually plays a role in developing the plot and the conflict that we know comes to ensue, which is the cloning starts to become a prominent thing in the Empire and whatnot. So, but no, I agree completely. Death means very little anymore, I feel like, in modern Star Wars, except for Andor. When people died in Andor, things were very meaningful, and you knew they weren't coming back.
Even for Kenoi.
Kenoi? Kenoi!
Even for Kenoi!
Quinoa. It's Kenoi.
Yeah, Quinoa. When Quinoa led the prison riot, and Quinoa says he can't swim and jumps in the water, even then, I'm convinced that Quinoa is still.
No, there's rumors. There's rumors that he will return.
Yeah, come on. There's no shot.
But there's no confirmed kill. We don't know what happens to him. We never see him either jump in or get shot by an officer during
but that's the problem. Even when people do get stabbed or shot.
No, yeah. Even with Tech falling to his death,
Tech's
all
alive.
of us were like, he's still all right,
Yeah, Tech's alive. Quinoa's alive.
We've been very conditioned to know that people can survive dire
Sabine is alive.
circumstances.
Mace Windu's alive. Cad Bane's probably alive.
Oh yeah. No, it's a
stupid Marshall, not Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Elephant
Jesus. He's totally
alive.
Yeah. Well, the mods got him.
Yeah.
Although I never thought his injury was that fatal to begin with. I only thought he got shot in the shoulder.
He still got shot.
Of all the injuries, I was like, you're telling me he needed mod work? No, very, very true.
Maul survived.
All of my immediate thoughts when somebody has a dramatic death in Star Wars anymore is there's no way they're dead. You know, the snow cushion detects fall. Exactly, right? Like, we all are putting pieces together. There's no way.
Alderaan is still alive. Prime is still alive.
Oh, God. Jesus. Jesus.
It's facts.
Well, anyway, where was that going with the poll? What villain would you want to see? How does that relate setup wise to the poll?
Yes.
Who should be the villain?
Who not who should, who's going to be.
Do you want to
We're
conduct
making
it?
predictions. We're making predictions of
Start a poll.
Yes.
All right.
Someone also just asked that, is this replacing Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie? And the Lucasfilm article confirmed no, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Lucasfilm makes their release made a distinction between this Mandoverse movie directed by Jon Favreau and the movie that Dave Filoni's going to direct in the future. So those are two separate projects.
Yes.
Based on the Lucasfilm release.
But Dave is going to be involved in this one. He's executive producing with Filoni or Favreau and Kathleen, so he'll still be involved. All right. Poll positions, folks. Our classic poll finale is commencing. I know people have had issues in the past. For some reason, all the components haven't been showing up, the prompt and the options. So I will read them off now as Tom types them so that you can get ready in case that's been the case for you and it's been glitching out. I know it's been happening with a couple people. Who will be the villain of the Mando movie? Option number 1, Moff Gideon. Option number 2, Thrawn. Option number 3, I think that's a long shot.
I'm merging it.
Snoke / Force clone. Interesting.
Let me add Force.
So that is one thing they were also setting up, you know.
Yeah, a Force-sensitive being that they could create in a lab.
Gideon was after Grogu because he had every other asset that he wanted, but he needed Grogu's midichlorians. So, but they never elaborated on whether he secured them or not.
Yeah. Correct.
So, all right. Poll has commenced. 4th option is other. If you don't believe it will be any of those 3 options,
Kino Loy. Kino Loy. What I call him? Kinoy?
Kinoy.
Mihoy, Minoy. Doodle Bob?
God.
Sounds like Doodle Bob.
The scariest thing ever. Why am I like 20-something years old?
Minoy, Minoy.
Doodle Bob is still horrific. Still.
That was a scary episode. Doodle Bob is scary.
He's terrifying.
I mean, he was a stalker. He's a creep.
He is. He's scary. But the way he talked didn't help. All right, so other is very popular.
We've got more than half saying other, so
which means I feel like
we need explanations.
Y'all, I think they're in the boat that I was saying, which I think would not be crazy out of expectation for the Mando movie if it is a side adventure that has nothing to do with the larger picture.
Forgot to put the seaweed pirate. That's who it's going to be.
Seaweed pirate.
What's
Gorian Shard.
It's Gorian Shard.
He died too, allegedly.
No, he's not dead. Nope. Gorian Shard is making a comeback.
There was an explosion. His ship crashed.
To the big screen. His
No,
big screen
I
cinematic
think
debut.
More people perhaps agree with what I'm saying, which is that it could this movie as a standalone could have nothing to do with the show. Could sure maybe adapt from the show and still make references to the show, but still be an entirely different side adventure, side quest, side mission, something that is not consequential to the series at all. That could explore just completely different standalone, a clean slate. Here's a mission, an adventure with Din and Grogu that is just inconsequential and has a whole different villain.
With a totally new villain?
Yeah.
For anybody who picked other, does other mean a character that we have no idea who they are? Or a known character that is not Gideon, Thrawn, or Snoke. We got 50%, so 7 people clicked other. So of those 7 people, who
What
are
do
you
you
thinking?
think?
I mean, someone said Palpatine returned. Is that I see
Oh.
Jake Paul, John Cena, see Swamp Pirate. Okay, so we've got Palpatine, Jake Paul, Hondo and his pig, John Cena, Swamp Pirate. So 2 more others that are unaccounted for.
Hondo and his pig friend.
Logan Paul?
Palpatine, says
Palpatine.
Ponzi.
Okay. I mean, listen, they've already brought him back.
Other
That's actually
means a totally new character,
okay.
probably in the underworld, or yeah, that underbelly of the Shadow Council, I think is what we all nicknamed them. Or no, that was their actual name for themselves, Shadow Council.
Live action Sid. Sid
Please,
is the villain.
No. Please, God, no.
All right, so back to Ponzi's point with Palpatine. Listen, the Rise of Skywalker already did the whole reveal, and they already broke that ice. They shattered it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if Palpatine is the real underlying villain in all this, and they tease him, and they start to really give us some meat to the bone of how Palpatine somehow returned, that's a great theory. And maybe that it makes sense to try and really tackle that and give us, like, whether it's physical shots of decrepit clone Palpatine and the acolytes, or not the acolytes, what are they called? The Exegol people.
Oh, I don't know.
Sith. Are they acolytes?
I think, yeah.
The Sith
That's what people were calling them.
acolytes or cultists? I forget what they are referred to as.
Cultists.
But whatever the hooded people on Exegol are doing, like if it makes sense that they would revisit Palpatine and Exegol and those acolytes and cultists directly in the film space. So, like, Ponzi coin, that's not a bad theory. So I would think that really they would go from Gideon to Thrawn to the Snoke Force sensitivity, and then Palpatine after that. But if they want to just bypass Snoke and give us Palpatine, like, trying to create Snoke, then I think it makes sense.
No, I agree with Charlie and RV here. Forget how it has to link to the bloody sequels. I don't think Mando, this film necessarily, is the one that's going to segue into the sequels. I think Dave Filoni's film, that is the purpose.
This whole thing is segueing into the sequels. They've been talking about cloning,
but I think,
and the Shadow Council, and they've been doing that this whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
And the big ending reveal of the sequels is Palpatine. They can't avoid it. It's not avoidable.
Far removed from
it's not avoidable.
Mando's story.
They've already shown
they planted
clones.
the seeds,
They've
but not
already
straight up
shown
showing
the clones.
straight up Palpatine is different. No.
And we still got 40 years to go before The Force Awakens, and they're already showing us the clones. We've literally already seen them.
Yeah.
If this movie takes place 1 or 2 years in the future.
But they are in early stage development, and I don't know. I'm not testing my blood pressure. Yeah, no. I think, all right, interesting. Majority of people, we can end the poll here. It's been pretty steady at 50%. Don't think it'll be any of those 3 villains that we proposed. So that's exciting, though.
What are the serious others? We got totally new character, which makes sense. Palpatine. Kyle's saying Knights of Ren. Kyle, is that your other? Knights of Ren is your other?
There's still a long time.
I think it might be still
them.
A little too early.
Yeah.
For them, but
no, I think it's more plausible that it could be. Somebody made a good point. Maybe Mando has to hunt down a member of the Shadow Council. Like, it could be interesting.
Hux is dead.
Could be.
Armitage Hux.
Let's be honest. The way Mando ended in Book of Boba Fett, it's not too impressive. They have their work cut out for them. Aw.
Lumpy.
I like Book of Boba, but no, I understand. It was very, that's why, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, I'm not even gonna read that one. I don't know. I prefer an existing character as opposed to other. Don't forget the Pikes. Yeah, like if Boba Fett. That's true. If Boba Fett's story intertwines with this as well, it could dictate, a potential villain. So, Zillow Beast.
Zeta, that was funny. That was a good one.
I went with other.
He could play a great villain.
Oh Jesus! All right, we're gonna wrap this up before Disney hates me forever.
It's not hating. Ryan Johnson could be cast as the villain.
This is true.
He's not going to play
It
Ryan
would be
Johnson.
fun. It would be fun to see him.
They should cast The Rock and name his character Ryan Johnson, and that's the villain.
Goodness gracious.
That's what we should do.
Alrighty, well, Echo has been out now. Percy Jackson's probably over by now. Kira can actually be really... Alice? Okay.
Alice. Kira.
That is not
Kira's
bad.
been lurking with
that would
Crimson Dawn and the Underworld, and they make a resurgence, and Kira is the villain.
Alice, you win. That's actually brilliant.
That could... That's plausible.
We're gonna end with the Queen Alice pitching the best idea up in here. Look at this. We've already done exactly what I always try to avoid doing, which is getting my hopes up too much and theorizing. This movie's probably gonna be totally different from anything that we projected that it's gonna be. And that's the beauty of Star Wars. We all have so many different ideas, so many different theories, so many different possible ways and directions and avenues that they could go. So before I get too set on Kira here, because that would actually be incredible.
What about Padme being recast and played by The Rock?
Jesus. Oh my god. All right, friends. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We lucked out. We had a lot of news available to us today, which has been fun to talk about. Very exciting. Always a good time when there's breaking Star Wars news, and especially good when it's announcements of new projects.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for joining us and all of our tangents, because we always usually talk about crazy things whenever we try to pitch a Star Wars idea. So
there's if anyone watching this stream back is going to find some serious gold nugget ideas.
There are.
And our discussions are very well thought out. We look at it from all angles, consider all the variables, target audience, cast, plot, conflict, crew, plot. I already said that. Timeline. We look at it from all angles. We do a good job at dissecting.
We're creative. That's what I'll give it.
And trying to analyze from every angle. We do a good job of that.
Sure.
If you smell what the Sith are cooking.
Jeez. Last week it was our Tusken Raider impression. Now this. Thank you everybody so much for joining us. We hope you guys have...
I was not anticipating Rock impression
on
the card for this evening.
Hope you guys have a great rest of your stretch after that one.
I gotta bulk up.
Your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m. Whatever time it may be for you.
Does Rock have tattoos?
He's still talking, so we're gonna just wrap. I think The Rock does have tattoos, yes.
Really?
But thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for always tolerating our crazy theories and playing along and sharing your guys' own incredible ideas. Alice with the dub for the day. A Kira return would be incredible. But either way, we're really looking forward to all the upcoming Star Wars material. Hope you guys enjoy Echo, for those of you who are watching, and if you've been delaying watching because you've been joining us, you're a real one. Shout out. But even if you left to go watch, we still love you. You're still awesome. We're gonna go watch Percy Jackson, which we've really been enjoying. Perhaps we'll discuss more of that in next week's episode, because we've really been loving it, and there's a lot to discuss. So without further ado, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m., wherever you may be. And we will see you guys again very, very soon. Tom has nothing to say for once, so.
I'm debating.
Jesus. All right.
Impersonating.
No.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson again.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm good. We're good. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out as always. Another great discussion. Lots of great input from all of you. It's awesome going back and forth and discoursing it up.
Yeah.
You all.
Let's put that on some merch.
Discoursing it up.
Yeah.
We gotta put. You should do an art piece of The Rock cast as Padme.
Sweet Jesus. All right, before this
And
gets more
that should be on
unhinged.
the merch.
Have a great night, everybody. We love you guys.
Dwayne Amidala Johnson.
We will talk to you guys again very, very soon.
Padme the Rock.
All right,
Amidala.
we're ending this. We're ending this now.
And taxes. The Rock pays his taxes. Padme does not. Do we need to get in this?
Oh my god.
Nicholas
No.
brought it
This
up.
is
Brought
not
in the
happening.
tax debate.
This is not happening. This is not
We gotta
happening.
do
This is
the
not
full
happening. This is
analysis.
not happening right now. All right.
The Rock
Bye, friends. We
and
love you guys.
Padme are probably in similar tax brackets.
Jesus.
Think
All right,
about it.
I'm switching now
No,
to the
Padme
thing
definitely has
screen.
more.
We're ending
wealth
this.
than
We're
The
on the
Rock.
thing screen now. Goodbye,
I don't know if
everybody.
they're the same tax
Good night,
bracket.
friends. We love you guys.
Well, the galactic tax brackets are probably different from United
Literally.
States tax brackets.
Stop. Oh my god. Yes, we have
Who
no
would
idea
win
how
in
it
a
works.
cage match?
Stop. What the heck? All right, I'm putting us on mute. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.